So that have been the window object and the location object. Time for the document object, which of course is not really the important one, but the one you will work with a lot because you want to interact with the DOM, with the HTML code. So the document object is just another object on the window object, so just another property. So I can print it like this, console log document. If I hit run, well, our screen is crowded by stuff because the document object holds the complete DOM, the complete HTML code, and a bunch of other properties and methods and events we may use, and I'll coming to events soon enough too. So this is not really helpful. The document does have some other things. For example, we can access a URL property to get our URL, but we could use location for that too, of course. Document also has a title property. If I print this, we get JSBin, and this of course refers to the title of this page. You can also see up here in the tab. The document also of course has its body. So if I log this, well, we get our DOM, our translated HTML code, and all the events attached there, and so on. So this is a very important part. And on that body, for example, we may access the children. Now, if we print this, then we see an array of all the HTML tags, represented of course as objects here, because again, they are translated into objects by the browser with their own attributes and properties. And we can work with that and manipulate this. To show this, I'll open up my HTML view here, and I'll add h1 tag where I say hello. And now I want to log the first children. Let's see what happens if I hit run. As you can see down here, the tag name is h1 and the text content is hello. So I'm kind of selecting this element I just created because it's the first child in the body here. So I'm selecting this with the index of 0, and then I can access any of the properties you see here. For example, text content, if I clear, which just gives me hello, so the text content of that element. And that's important. Each of the HTML elements you write here is transformed into its own object by the browser with all the properties you just saw. And the properties an object here has depends on the type of HTML element it is. A link element has other properties than a button. And you can use all those properties and methods and whatever this element might have by simply accessing them here on the object which they are in the end. The object created by the browser, the object you may access through JavaScript. And that of course means you can not only log it, you could also set the text content to something else. And now I'll need the output for that to show up. And watch this hello text here. If I hit run, it's changed to something else. And this is how you can interact with your DOM, with the HTML code, and change it during runtime, which of course creates all those fancy effects users like so much, because you don't need to reload the page, you don't need to get a new page from the server, you change the existing page. And single page applications, frameworks like Angular 2, if you've heard of that, do exactly this. They have one single page and they change it all the time. And you can do this on your own as well. You access the properties of your HTML elements and you change them, or you just get them, or whatever you need to do. Now, how do you find out which properties an element has? Well, you saw one method. You can simply log it to the console like we did, right? Document, body, children, 0. This is the h1 element. And if I, log this again, here you go. these are all the properties you may access. And now before you fall off your chair, you don't really need access to all of them. The most important ones are the ones you know from HTML coding, like setting the style or setting the text through text content here, of course. And yeah, let's set the style, for example, to see this. So I'll again get rid of the log and instead access the style property. And here, this style property itself is an object with all the available CSS styles. For example, the background color. Now notice we don't have a dash here. It's not background slash color, a dash color. It's with a capital C because we can't use dashes in JavaScript variable or property names. But I could set it to red, and if I hit run, well, we got this red background now. And this is how you can interact with it. And it's really just diving in, looking it up, and learning it. Because as you can see, it's a bit of a too long list to go through it detailed here. But here, for example, you have the style object. This is still the object from before, which I printed, this h1 element. And here you see all the CSS styles you can set. The background color, which wasn't set before, but now would be set to red here. Now, rightfully, you might say this is all nice, but it's a bit difficult to select all the elements like this. Because imagine you don't have this, but you have an unordered list, where you have a list item, where you have a link, where you then want to access something like this link, and you have multiple list items, and you certainly don't want to say document children, then here this is the first children, then the children of this element, because you can also change this. You can select the children of, well, a child element, and then this one. That is really difficult. So we'll learn other ways of doing this soon.